UK true crime stories. He appeared heartbroken, devastated by the loss. But behind the tears, a chilling truth was waiting to be uncovered. Welcome to UK True Crime Stories, Episode 14. I'm Sophie, and today we have 3 cases that will stay with you. Stay with us to the end, we'll come back to that opening story, and trust me, the truth is even stranger than it sounds. Our first story takes us back to a warm summer night in the village of Trimley St Mary, Suffolk. It was 1999. The air was thick with the promise of a new millennium, but for one family, that promise would be shattered by an unimaginable loss. Victoria Hall was just 17. Like many teenagers, she was out enjoying herself on a Friday night, August 20th, with friends at the Bandbox nightclub in Felixstowe. She was seen leaving the club in the early hours of Saturday morning, around 2:20 a.m., with a friend. They walked part of the way home together, laughing, talking about the night.
A typical night out for a teenager. Nothing unusual there.
Exactly. But at a junction just a short walk from her home, Victoria said goodbye to her friend. She was just moments away from her front door. She should have been safe. But Victoria Hall never made it home.
Just vanished? In a few minutes' walk?
Vanished. Her parents, Graham and Lorna Hall, woke that morning to find her bed empty. Panic, cold and sharp, began to set in. The village, a close-knit community, mobilized. Posters went up. Search parties combed the fields and lanes. Hope, desperately held onto, began to fray with each passing hour.
I can only imagine the fear, the helplessness.
For 5 agonizing days, the search continued. Then, on August 25th, a walker discovered a body in a ditch near a remote field in Creting St Peter, about 25 miles away from Trimley St Mary. It was Victoria. The community's worst fears were realized.
So, the investigation begins. A massive undertaking, I'm sure.
It was. Suffolk police launched a huge murder inquiry. Detectives worked tirelessly, interviewing hundreds of people, following countless leads. A man was arrested and charged in 2001, but the case collapsed due to insufficient evidence. The family and the community were left devastated again.
A case collapsing must be incredibly frustrating for everyone involved, especially the family who are so close to getting answers.
It was a crushing blow. For over 2 decades, Victoria's murder remained unsolved. The case became a persistent shadow over the village, a painful reminder of a life tragically cut short. But the police never truly closed the file. The cold case review team continued to work, hoping for a breakthrough.
And now, more than 2 decades later, there's a new development, isn't there?
Yes. Just this month, the Independent Office for Police Conduct, the IOPC, has directed Suffolk Police to investigate its handling of the case. This comes after a complaint was made, though the details of that complaint haven't been made public.
So, after all these years, it's not just about finding Victoria's killer, but also about scrutinizing the investigation itself. That's a significant step.
It is. It offers a glimmer of hope for Victoria's family that they might finally get some answers, not just about who took their daughter, but about how the investigation was conducted. Justice, it seems, can take many forms, and sometimes, it's a long, winding road.
Stories like this one don't get told unless people are listening. If you're new here, hit subscribe. We cover real UK cases every single day, and you don't want to miss what's coming. Sophie, the next case we're looking at took investigators years to even begin to understand. It's a true mystery, spanning decades. Our next story begins in the tranquil, ancient woodlands of Wayland Wood in Norfolk. It's a place steeped in local legend, often called the Babes in the Wood forest. But in 2015, it became the site of a very real, very chilling discovery.
Wayland Wood is beautiful, but also quite isolated. A perfect place for a secret to be kept.
Exactly. On a bright, late summer's day in August 2015, a group of campers were exploring the deeper parts of the wood, enjoying the peace and quiet. But their peaceful afternoon took a sudden, horrifying turn. Tucked away, partially covered by undergrowth, they found human remains.
A discovery like that in such a historic, almost mythical, place must have been incredibly unsettling.
It was. Police were called immediately, and a forensic investigation began. It soon became clear that the remains belonged to a man, and that he hadn't died recently. Forensic anthropologists determined that the body had likely been there for a significant period. Initially, they believed it was between 5 and 10 years, but that timeline would later be extended.
So, a man, deceased for years, found in a remote wood. The first and most crucial question for investigators must have been, who was he?
Precisely. But that question proved incredibly difficult to answer. There were no obvious identifying documents, no personal effects. The man, who we'll call David for the sake of our story, was a complete enigma. Investigators turned to forensic science, hoping to paint a picture of who he might have been.
It's incredible what forensics can do, even after so much time.
It is. They created a facial reconstruction, a detailed computer-generated image of what David might have looked like. They circulated it widely, hoping someone, somewhere, would recognize him. But still, nothing. Years passed. The case remained unsolved, David remained nameless.
It's heartbreaking to think of someone lying unidentified for so long, and a family out there perhaps still wondering what happened to their loved one.
Absolutely. But there was one crucial piece of information that police held onto. David had undergone extensive, quite unique dental work. It was a distinctive pattern of fillings and crowns. This, they believed, was their best chance. They shared this information with dentists across the country, hoping it would ring a bell.
So, a very specific detail, a dentist's signature almost, could be the key.
That's the hope. Just recently, police reiterated their appeal, stressing that despite the passage of time, they are still no closer to identifying David. They believe his unique dental work is the strongest lead they have. They are still hoping that a dental professional, or someone who remembers a friend or family member with similar work, will come forward.
It's a powerful reminder that every detail matters in these cases, no matter how small. And that for some families, the wait for answers never truly ends. I never get used to these. If you've been sharing these episodes with friends, thank you. It genuinely helps more people discover the channel. Hit subscribe if you haven't already. Dan, that takes us back to the story we teased at the top of the episode. The story of a man who seemed devastated, but whose grief was a carefully constructed lie.
It's a case that really highlights the depths of human deception, and the incredible work of investigators to peel back those layers.
We're talking about the murder of Natalie McNally, a vibrant young woman whose life was tragically cut short. Her partner, Stephen McCullough, was found guilty of her murder just this week.
Natalie was found deceased at her home in Silverstream, Lurgan, County Armagh, Northern Ireland, in December 2022. The news sent shockwaves through the community.
And immediately, Stephen McCullough, her partner, was there. Publicly grieving. He made emotional appeals to the media, begging for information, distraught over Natalie's death. He even appeared on social media, tearfully pleading for the killer to come forward.
It's the kind of performance that would fool anyone. He seemed like the grieving partner, the victim of a terrible crime.
He did. The family, Natalie's family, were understandably heartbroken, and they rallied around him, offering comfort, believing his pain was genuine. They were all united in their grief, and their desperate search for answers.
But behind the scenes, police were meticulously piecing together the true timeline of events. They knew Natalie had been attacked. And as they dug deeper, the cracks in Stephen McCullough's story began to show.
It turned out, his public appeals, his tears, his carefully constructed alibis, they were all part of an elaborate charade. Detectives discovered that McCullough had traveled to Natalie's home on the night of her death. He had then returned home, changed his clothes, and even staged his own home to make it appear as though he had been there all along.
The sheer audacity of it, to put on such a performance, while knowing what he had done. It's truly chilling.
It is. He even used Natalie's phone after her death, texting himself and others, trying to create a false narrative that she was still alive and well. It was a calculated attempt to mislead the investigation and throw suspicion elsewhere.
So, the man who was publicly grieving, the man the family comforted, was the very person who had taken Natalie's life. The betrayal must have been immense.
The family's reaction tells you everything. After the verdict, Natalie's brothers spoke out, expressing their shock and devastation. They used the words, "How did we fall for it?" They had believed him, comforted him, and all the while, he was lying to their faces. It's a level of betrayal that's almost impossible to comprehend.
It really brings home the human element of these cases, doesn't it? The sheer emotional toll, not just of the loss, but of the deception.
Absolutely. The judge described McCullough's actions as a callous and elaborate deceit. The evidence against him was overwhelming, pieced together through CCTV, phone records, and forensic analysis. Justice, in this case, was served, but the scars of his deception will undoubtedly remain with Natalie's family forever.
That's UK True Crime Stories for today, episode 14. These stories are inspired by real documented cases. If today's episode moved you, share it with someone who'd appreciate it. It really does make a difference. If you have information about any unsolved case, please contact Crime Stoppers on 0800 555 111, anonymously, anytime. Subscribe for more true crime every day, and if you're interested in real UK money stories, debt, savings, financial freedom, check out our sister channel UK Stories.